It's 7 p.m., maybe a little tiny bit past, and therefore I'd like to call this meeting to order of the Hanson Conservation Commission. This meeting is now open under the State Wetland Protection Act, Chapter 131, Section 40, and the Hanson Local Bylaw, Article 3-13, Section 5. These opening statements do apply to business conducted at this meeting. And per standard procedure, this meeting is being audio recorded. We'll start with a roll call, please.
Steve Smith. Ed Hill. TJ Rofi.
Dave Mansfield.
Bill Clemens.
Woodward.
So all of our seated commissioners are present. Of our staff, only our agent, Dr. Frank Skellinger, is on vacation, but that's all right. He left us plenty of paperwork to go by. So we will proceed with the meeting. The first thing we have scheduled is scheduled for 7 p.m. continued notice of intent hearing for 3 parcels on Lakeside Road, treating them as one hearing since they're all intimately related, integrated as we have seen in previous sessions of the hearing, and handouts of engineering plans. If I may, I'd like to offer the floor to the applicant and the representative for any further comments. I think we're approaching some decision points, but Mr. Rye, if there's anything you'd like to say, we'd be happy to hear it.
Sure, I'll just provide you with, I don't think we've given you paper copies of these yet, in case you didn't print them out yourself. There's mitigation calculations we've done,
Good. Thank you.
and then there's a mitigation plan for the wetland disturbance.
I
Probably
think I
should
have it, but
Oh, you have them
yes.
right here.
Okay, thank you
There's a couple
kindly.
extras.
Sure.
So Ken Thompson put the mitigation plan together for the wetland mitigation, which you see in front of you. He was the one that did the flagging for the site. And then I calculated some numbers for each of the lots, each of the 3 lots. We talked about in lieu of mitigation, how to come up with a number that's can be reproduced, basically that you can use anytime you want to do it. And what I came up with, this is the square footage of the disturbance within the 50-foot node disturbed zone for each of the lots, and multiply it by a factor of 10 cents per square foot to come up with a number. And the numbers we ended up coming up with were a little bit larger than what we had offered last week, with a total of about $5,625. And I've talked to Brian, he's willing to use those numbers, and based on square footage just for simplicity, and the fact that the numbers you get right now for a fee for the buffer zone disturbance is 2 cents a square foot. So figuring that the 50-foot is much more important. So 5 times that would be 10 cents a square foot. So if you have any questions on that?
Appreciate that.
Yeah, I like that better than just an
So,
arbitrary figure.
Yeah, this follows up on a pretty fair amount of discussion we had at our last meeting, the earlier session of the hearing, and it represents an effort to be fair and equitable to all parties, certainly to the resources of the area, but also to the applicant. Reflects the fact that much of the, call it driveway area, has been essentially driveway throughout its history as a cranberry bog and so on. We note from the replication handout here, there's 6 species identified: red maple, black tupelo, yellow birch, silky dogwood, speckled alder, pussy willow. Those, and then also a seed with New England wet mix for the ground cover. That appears to be 3 native tree species and 3 native shrub species. So it seems to be consistent with our mandate to enhance the environment. So we spent a great deal of time looking at the engineering drawings before. Probably, unless someone feels otherwise, don't know if there's a need to do it again, but they appear to be here for our discussion. I know that our agent did review in detail what the applicant proposes for mitigation funding, as summarized and as described verbally by Mr. Rye. I know I looked at it too, and it seemed reasonable. When you look at the lower right-hand corner, the total fee offered, in conservation, we actually can do quite a bit with a dollar amount like that. And it seems to me, personally, this is getting to a point where it makes a lot of sense. Any comments or concerns? By the way, I should note, when we did our roll call earlier, we omitted our associate members, of whom we have two here, and Laura and Chris, and the record may show their attendance as well. Back on the hearing, I know that whenever we have a project, especially one that's somewhat complex like this, there's always a long list of standard conditions, but we have already put on the table, and this shouldn't be a surprise to anyone, but just as a reminder, our agent did note some things we should just make sure we put in as special conditions for this project, and that what's being proposed is that no work should be undertaken until all administrative appeal periods from this order have elapsed, or until proceedings resulting from that have been completed. Also, no work should be undertaken on the project till the Board of Health approves the septic system design. And if there's any differences from their approved design from what's been placed before us, that would be resubmitted to Conservation for review. That would be in one of the special conditions. And we would be talking about allowing for putting in this mitigation for the 50-foot buffer impacts as made by the applicant, as offered by the applicant, and also an assurance that the wetland replication, bank restoration and replication, and land underwater restoration shall be done according to the plans. In other words, what the plans say is what gets done, and I'm sure inspections will document that. And those actions will be monitored for 2 years to ensure success of the vegetation before the applicant submits a request for a certificate of compliance. If it's necessary, we can always extend the order beyond the normal 3 years if it's necessary for completion of everything. And finally, the access and utility easements, which are a little bit detailed but have been described to us before and they made sense, those should be in place and recorded before any future request for certificate of compliance. So we thought it was worth mentioning and putting on the record those points for this somewhat complex project, but it's not rocket science. So, are there any further questions, either or comments from either the commission or from our associate commissioners or from any concerned abutters, people with an interest in the neighborhood?
I'd just like to thank them for coming up with this, the mitigation summary table that they came up with, which helps us put a not just come up with a number that we just, hey, it should be 5,000 for this project, 10,000 for this one, $2 for this one. It actually means something. That really does help.
Yeah, I think it moves us from the arbitrary and maybe sometimes not treating people equally formula to a sensible approach. Somewhat formulaic, but again, as Mr. Ryan pointed out, it compares favorably with, or is consistent with other fees we have for other impacts. So, sir, yes, Joe.
And Joe Believer, 72 Lakeside. I just have to wrap this around my head. When you say for a mitigation and you put a dollar value on it, it just doesn't hit me. And why can't they mitigate on the property? Why can't they do something like vegetative, something planting on the construction place to mitigate what they're taking away from the buffer zone?
Good question, and we think there's some good answers for that. Number one, that always is the first choice. If you can avoid impacting either a wetland resource or the buffer area beside it, you do avoid it. If you can't avoid it, you try to minimize it. That's the standard approach. And if you, even after that effort, if you can't avoid it, mitigation of some type is required. And in this case, a large percentage of the property, almost everything except the driveways themselves and the immediate location of the buildings and septic systems, is resource area, it's wetland. And if you're going to do mitigation there, you'd say, well, let's rearrange this. Well, it already is a resource area, and it's like you're not making the resource any bigger. What you're doing is you're just moving the pieces around the board. What we've done a few times, and this has precedence in other areas as well, is if you feel you need more mitigation than can be done on the site, and by the way, they are doing some mitigation on the site. There is a plan here, there's extra copies, people are welcome to. Okay. It seems to the commission they're doing the best they can, and it's an appropriate plan for that limited space, but more is needed. What we have done in the past, and we would be doing in this case, is on other town-owned properties that have need of improvement, either they've been abused or ignored or mismanaged or who knows what the history may be, more improvements can be made with these funds. For example, we could buy additional trees from a nursery and get them planted and reestablish forests that maybe had long since been destroyed, or a wetland area that may have been abused in some way. We have several special environmental projects already underway on town-owned property. For example, Smitty's Bog, which is a mile or so away from here. This we've done some spending of federal money, but we spent all the federal money we can get on restoring Atlantic white cedars there, for example. That's the native tree that was obliterated in order to make the bogs. We'd like to continue the pattern of bringing back the cedars to replace where they were. So this is sort of like a fourth level of response. If you can't avoid an impact, and you've already tried to minimize it and mitigate on-site, this fund, which, by the way, there's a revolving fund that was approved by the town meeting recently, where we could put funds until we know exactly where we want to spend them. This formula will sort of keep the environmental books balanced in the wider neighborhood above and beyond this project. So it could be that this project will improve some other things visibly, and that's the goal of the commission. Long answer, but a good question. It's not our first, second, or third choice, but it is a viable thing to do. It's too many times, and not going to point fingers at any other towns or commissions or anything, too many times variances have been granted to work in wetland or buffer areas, and they just granted them and moved on, and there was no compensation or balancing of the books, so to speak. This is that kind of compensation. Any other questions? It goes, oh, by the way, I believe one of the other conditions, I didn't see it written here, is there is this project proponent, I think, inherits a responsibility from previous project to continue upgrading Lakeside Road along the frontage of this property. I don't think that's the exact wording, but does that sound right to our staff? Okay. And that's, again, not a surprise to anyone, I don't think, in the project. So, the chair, at this point, is open to a motion to, for one thing, to approve the, oh, wait a minute, what do I have here? Okay. The wording is in the hands of the staff here, and it'll be put forth to the applicant, but the technical word is, that applicant shall acknowledge in writing that he is the successor, quote unquote, responsible for the order of conditions that was set earlier under an earlier DEP number. The conditions of that order are hereby included in this order by reference. So that's the street maintenance. The chair is open to a motion to approve a variance to allow work within the 50-foot buffer zone for this project.
So moved.
Second?
Any discussion on that? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstaining? You apparently have one person abstaining, Mr. Brophy,
Same recused, right?
who has recused himself in the other one. So 4-0-1, that variance is approved. And may the chair seek from the commission an understanding that that motion and the other motions that may come forward will apply to all three projects as we've noted here, 0752, 53, and 54. let the record show the motion covers, to issue the variance covers those three numbers. And finally, the chair invites a motion to close the hearing and approve the project subject to special conditions, including the ones we emphasized earlier tonight.
So moved.
Second?
Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstaining, 4-0-1. Hearing's closed, project's approved. There's always paper, and here it comes. All three projects are.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank
Thanks for
you.
your work on that, appreciate it.
Thanks.
There's the one.
Was it just one first to sign?
Oh, that's the next thing.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Take care now.
Put this back where it needs to be. Diving for paper clips. Welcome back, sir.
It's great to be here.
Oh, help yourself to an agenda.
Oh, yeah, that's yours, yeah.
Yeah,
He was like kind of on top of it, so I didn't want to
Touch this.
pull it off.
yeah, where they moved in and you territory. Okay, here are those
awesome.
three. And this, go with that, however you want to do it.
Sure.
The other items on our agenda don't have a time assigned to them, so let's start at the top with the meeting of October 4th, if we may. It was largely devoted to the hearing we just closed.
After the third notice of intent, where it says Vice Chair Roby recused himself from hearing, there's the board's up from the hearing.
From the hearing, yeah. So we know his hearing is not impaired.
Well, we don't know that, but we.
From the, oh, you mean at the, okay.
Yeah. Steve, you must have done very well in English class. Composition, sentence structure, etc. Thank you. And without rushing anyone, at any time, the chair is open to a motion on the amended
I
minutes.
would move that we vote to accept the meeting minutes from October 4th with a small editorial change.
Heard the motion, do we hear a second?
Second.
Second has been heard. Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstaining? 0. We have minutes. Under appointments, it says none. I trust that's correct. We do have, for discussion, a request for an extension to an order of conditions. This relates to our own projects at Smitty's Bog, east of 17th Street, map 53, lot 2. And what we would need to do, this is the order of conditions that stemmed from way back, what's the date of this? Is it old as I think?
We've done a couple of extensions.
We have been
since then.
extending this because we may be extending this a few times in the future too. This is for restoration work on the bog. in that area. So I think, I don't know if Frank should express an opinion.
I don't know how many years you want.
If the statutes allow us to do a 5-year extension, the chair would be in favor of that, just because.
So moved.
So we have a motion for the commission to approve a 5-year extension to our own order of conditions. That's, for the record, there is a copy of the entire WPA form right here, and we trust it's all in order. So, moved and seconded to extend the order of conditions. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstaining? 500. We stand extended, and we shall sign accordingly here.
You know, on second thought, Chris, maybe you could make the update tomorrow. We might as well pull the others out. No sense in just leaving them there for Steve to do.
Should I bring the machine and mow?
We can't really mow in there, can we, Steve?
So what's that? Well, I mean, do the around?
Oh, well, we'll get to that a little later. We'll see.
Yeah, you mean the meadow, right?
No, yeah.
I think on our agenda, we will next move to conservation property status and management update. Maybe all rolled together as one set of things to discuss. We, I think, have a handout here related to that, and
There's two handouts, actually.
okay,
USDA calls.
Okay.
I'll send it when I go.
Did you copy them all? Ron?
Yeah,
you make
what
out
happened
this-
is,
you have?
Yeah, I have it.
Does everyone else have it
I
on?
don't know.
here's another one here.
And this has a different title, the USDA is in.
Right.
That's the call.
So I strayed from the usual spreadsheet. Didn't work with that.
Yeah, it stands on its own in terms of interest and importance.
So,
Mr. Mansfield, the floor is yours.
let me start with the first thing. I had a call with Jasper Cowley from USDA today, and he responded to some questions that we had. I think everybody knows that our CUAs have been approved and signed.
Right, our compatible use agreements.
So we're all set with those. Those weren't the questions he answered. But we posed some questions when we met with him, and I just enumerate them. He answered them all. One question was, are it permitted to install an osprey nesting platform on an existing utility pole? The answer is it is permissible. It's covered under the existing CUA for the bird nesting sites. There's no further paperwork required. We can just do that if we so choose.
Excellent.
We asked about trimming or cutting trees and bushes in the utility line that feeds the houses there. And the answer is it's okay to trim or cut the trees and bushes that are adjacent to the poles or imposing on the lines themselves, but that's all.
And I think as maybe most of us recall, the power lines go from the street, cut in across a little bit the corner of a couple of bogs
Right.
on their way to those two residences. And it did occur to us that if it were permissible to remove the red maples that are going straight up towards the sky under those wires and poles, it would be good for all parties.
Right, and they're fine with that.
But this is basically saying near the poles, not near the wires.
Well,
I'm thinking poles and wires go together.
Right, yeah.
I mean, the poles are no use without
I'm
the
just
wires.
summarizing an hour-long conversation.
Okay, thank you.
We didn't really have a question directly related to removing the poles themselves, but they addressed it anyway, and they do not want any poles removed. However, removing the wires and transformers is fine.
Yeah. So the poles that, not going to the houses, but beyond where the
Right.
houses are, there's an extension that used to go to
Right.
a structure that's no longer there. So the poles should remain, and that's what we
Right.
wanted anyway.
Right, he did amend that later in the conversation to say that if there was any particular pole causing a problem of some sort, they wouldn't be adverse to having us cut it, but they don't want any of them removed. They don't want any digging in there.
Yeah. What we've seen in other parts of town where the utility company did away with a power line, like down in Cedar Swamp, they just cut it at ground level.
Right.
certainly it's easier than digging it up.
Yeah. So he said that if we did feel we had to remove any of them, it would be okay to do that. He said that later in the conversation.
Okay.
Well, there will come a point at which they're gonna be a hazard if they don't.
Yeah.
Right, at some,
And they're not opposed to
Right,
that.
we're not there, but it is a point that does come.
yeah, they won't last
You
forever.
mentioned osprey nests also. Are they happen to be in a location that would be optimal for that?
We don't have to put a nest in.
No, that's, I'm
okay.
just asking where the poles are.
It has
Are they-
occurred to some of us, looking at it, that, because you look around the landscape, around the region, up and down the coast, there's a lot of artificial osprey nest platforms. They tend to be near shorelines, either in a marsh or an upland that's nearby. The ospreys themselves select poles, i.e. Towers for wireless transmission. There are two places in town, at least, where ospreys have, or used to have, nests. They put there themselves. One of these poles is maybe, I don't know, 100 feet, 150 feet from the shoreline of the pond. It's almost begging to have a platform put on top. And if you did that and then maybe put a few sticks up there, and who knows, a lady osprey may notice it next spring and,
Yep.
and talk to her husband, and they may, it will be exciting to watch that. It'll be a little experiment.
It really would be. Yeah.
Oh, they definitely will. There's two nesting pairs that were down at the Burridge, one on top of the cell tower and one over by Stone Brook.
Exactly. That's one of the towers I was thinking of, and there's actually have been two other platforms for them down there. And all these nests tend to produce baby ospreys,
Yeah.
and when they grow up, they'll be looking for their own platforms.
They get 2 years and they get kicked out.
So, all good.
So, if care should be taken when doing any work around the poles to minimize disturbance. Another related answer was that the poles can be used for birdhouse locations.
Yeah. There was another type of birdhouse that we'd love to put somewhere, and we could use a pole for, maybe for kestrels.
Well,
we
in
used to call
fact,
sparrowhawks.
the COA mentions putting them
Yeah.
30 feet high. So,
We are, we loaded with opportunities here.
yeah, well, that's your deal, Trish. Climb the pole, right?
Sure.
Take a note, line on that. TJ's gonna climb the pole.
Okay.
And also, so we asked for some guidance about, this wasn't something, and we made it clear when we asked about it, about breaching the dike there to drain that reservoir. When I asked about it, I told him it's not something we plan to do, but it had occasionally been mentioned, and we just wanted to get some guidance on it. So the answer to that is no, we can't do it.
A thing that the chair finds a little odd here is hydrology cannot be altered.
That was his
Well,
quote.
the entire purpose of USDA is to restore hydrology. Hydrology has long since been altered, and we've been aiming to restore it.
He didn't
Right,
elaborate.
well, the
But-
second half of the
This is a
sentence is
quote.
beyond what the USDA already authorized.
That's correct. That's correct.
Which is why we asked.
Right. And so.
They already authorized one thing they didn't ask for originally, which is the breach in the dike over by Katy Lane. That was fine, but that was like 6 years ago.
So he told me when I asked him about it originally, that was not his call, he had to bring it upstairs, so to speak. So he didn't say who gave that statement, but that was the quote, hydrology there, it can't be altered. So it sounds to me as if what they mean is the existing hydrology can't be altered, and what's there now.
By us,
By,
Okay.
Mother Nature.
So I said, as a drop back, would it be possible to try to clean out some of the silt under the bridge that's there? And he said, no, for the same reason. So that seems to be a dead.
Your chair is puzzled and disappointed, but he can live with that for now.
I brought up the bridge thing, and he said, no, same thing. So, now, as far as the dry cranberry display education area, he started off by going into a fairly long dissertation about this is not agriculture, and so on and so forth. And he ended with, on the other hand, if you have a very small area that's for display and education, that would be okay. So after a long conversation, or monologue, about how we can't do it, he said a very small area would be.
Would we be fertilizing it?
No.
Just
No,
No machines, no
That's what they're saying,
cultivation, no
fertilizing,
fertilization.
planting, and cultivating.
nothing could be further from our plans.
No.
Yeah,
And
I
told
mean,
him-
that's what he's saying. I just
Right,
wondered-
but they're just making sure, where they put their foot down before, they're putting it there again,
Mhm.
as if we didn't hear them the first time.
Yeah.
How would the 10 by 10 area differ from the surrounding area then?
Um,
Yeah.
There'd be nothing to it.
One,
Well, he didn't say it had to be 10 by 10. He was saying, for example, if you just picked a small 10 by 10, for
Yeah.
instance, area.
what was,
Cranberries growing.
I don't think they're gonna come out. and
just to reiterate for the benefit of all of us here,
They're not doing great. but-
one of the bog cells, the one closest to Camp Kawani, happened to be the most productive bog they had. In fact, the very last thing that Edgewood did before they vacated was, with permission from the USDA, they mowed off like bales and bales of cuttings to transplant to their bogs down in Carver. However, that left behind all the roots and things, and the plants continue to grow. But what also grows all around those productive plants is red maples and other things. And since it's so close to Kawani, and since it's such a really productive bog, I've seen people picking berries there like by hand, and just it was thought that there was an opportunity to educate in some manner classes or individual groups and things, people on this is what a cranberry bog looks like, and if you want to pick some and bring them home, you're doing just what everyone used to do, even the Indians and the Pilgrims and stuff like that. And if you let all the volunteer trees grow, you will pretty nearly shade out all those berries. So some small area, it seems like we have permission to clear it so they wouldn't be shaded out.
So we'll basically be removing invasive or aggressive other stuff and just.
Aggressive is the
cranberries.
right word. There's more red maple every year in the state, despite all the forest clearing. I don't know what to compare red maple to, but it grows like crazy. And a few red maples would not ever be missed. And what I'm picturing is a small section, they're using their word, small area
For
that's
example,
accessible from Kawani. The little sign say, this is what cranberry vines look like, help yourself, and words to that effect. And so thank you for getting that blessing.
So that was that, and the other item was, as I was talking to him, somebody came to him and told him to let me know that they're processing our payment, and they're gonna contact you.
I got the email this afternoon,
Oh,
I
you already got
checked. I just have to forward it to the treasurer collector
Yeah.
to,
He asked me for your
Jeannie
phone
can
number.
fill it out, so it'll probably be a direct deposit.
Yeah, that's actually a tiny little victory, because 10 years ago, it was proffered to us that we could be getting something like $100,000. And then, while we were busy trying to get our act together, the program changed and the money almost all went away. But we hung on to $3,000. And it looks like we might get it eventually.
Well, it sounds like sooner rather than later. That came up while I was talking to him, so somebody told him it's being processed.
Hey, they got money coming.
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
So
This is good.
There's that.
So that's the USDA
That's
conversation.
USDA. Trail monitor update pretty quick.
Conservation funds, right?
I would say so.
We have our first Adopt the Trail program volunteer, Kevin Sullivan. He's agreed to do weekly checks in the Poor Meadow area. And Laura and I did a tour of all the sites the other day, and she's agreed to monitor Webster Billings and to try to encourage some communication with the folks in the area that have been unofficially maintaining that area. So hopefully we can open some dialogue with them and kind of formalize what goes on.
Yeah, it would be nice to not only have labor help on that, but to sort of make sure everyone stays in the lane of proper work, doesn't overdo it or do something unpredictable and undesirable.
So on Barn Hill Trail, I already mentioned that since I sent this to Lon, Plymouth County called and said they've got a crew of 2 guys in a pickup truck doing some work at Burridge. And the supervisor told me he'd give me a call just before noon, I guess when they're done there. And they'll have a truck with them, they'll just come up to Plymouth County and pick up those tires. So I think it would make sense, Chris, maybe we should meet up there anyway. Might as well pull those ones with the rim out. I don't think they'll take them, but we have to get them out anyway, so instead of leaving them for Steve. I'd rather just leave them for Steve, but
My plan was to rag them out at my
we
house.
can help them out.
I'm just gonna dump them in my backyard until I figure out what to do
We
with
can
them.
pull them out. If that, all right, it shouldn't take too long, right? What do we need, a shovel?
No, I mean, the ones that are still in there, I left them, they're not really buried. There's 3 that are up on a hill that are gonna be a little awkward to get to, but they're just rolling down.
Awkward's your middle name, right? You can get that right. You can handle it.
The Japanese mountain we got in the way. It's
So-
like you literally have to clear a path just to get to them.
Okay. Yeah, so I'll just meet you up there. We'll just do that and, with that in mind though.
I'll text you when I'm out of there with the tooth, but if you're still out there, I'll come help.
One of the other things we need to decide on, I think, are the issue of mowing this perimeter trail in the Last Meadows and mowing the meadows themselves.
On that topic, I believe I owe an apology to the gentleman at the back of the room. He offered some thoughts about that, and I'm remiss in not getting back to him. Chris, what you proposed of mowing around very near the tree line, I think is excellent. If anything, we need to try to keep those meadows from getting any smaller, and mowing right next to the tree line will help advance that. We might even, in the future, do some selective trimming above and beyond just that mowing, but that will sort of draw a line in the sand and protect the meadows that we still have. A thought, though, occurred to me. If you go to the farthest 2 meadows, the ones beyond the culverts that were installed, the first one on the right, that slope, the southern, lots and lots and lots of poison ivy. Maybe you've seen it. Anyone who has walked around has probably noticed it. I leave it to everyone's combined judgment as to whether to mow through that or around it or what. If we did mow through it and then remember to not touch the blades after all, they're still covered with urushiol after that, it might start a process of at least somewhat making a safer perimeter trail through there, because I think a little bit of strategic use of just consumer type products of poison ivy spray might be called for in the future. But that, as much as any tree or anything, encroaches into the useful portion of the meadow. So use your own judgment when you come to that. If you maybe you already know what I'm talking about, and if you don't, you'll know when you see it. It's lush.
Oh, that's not that lower corner of the first meadow?
It's sort of the middle of the lower edge, the middle of the southern edge, halfway between our main trail and the extreme low corner is this lush stand of poison ivy.
I think
It's just there.
So we're good to go up with that then? With that part of
The
it?
chair thinks it's fine.
Okay. What about the mowing of the meadows themselves?
I think we should wait until we have established our walking trail, our perimeter trail. The meadows themselves, I wouldn't want to mow it until we had a written protocol for how to mow. Those things are available because lots of other entities like Wilderness Trust, trustees of reservations, other conservation commissions, Department of Fish and Game, they have such protocols. But I would like to have one in our hands, say this is ours, and whoever's going to do the mowing, whether it's Chris or someone else, okay, do this, don't do more than this. Do everything you can up to this, but don't do more than this. What to mow, how high to mow it, and when to mow it.
Okay.
I just feel the number one thing is to get the perimeter trails done. That's the highest demand for the public, and it also will give us improved means of accessing places to put up either replacement or new bluebird boxes, that kind of thing. Because those, the perimeters of those fields is the most prime locations.
Did you say for blueberries?
Bluebird.
Bluebirds.
Bluebirds.
We have other people in town who are kind of bluebird experts and who could kind of do our work for us if we just made it clear where we wanted them and make it feasible to go there. So we're building the team in that sense too.
I talked to Deputy Chief Charlie Behrens last night at that planning meeting. It was
Yes.
down in Kiwanee, just by chance. I was sitting next to him, and the lock at Indian Crossway parking lot is jammed in there, so I don't think they can take that padlock out of there. So he's going down there to check on it. And while I was talking to him, the topic, and Gil was there, the topic of vandalism and dumping issues came up, and he's going to look into it. He said there's a grant available to fire departments for purchase of equipment for security, and he was unclear exactly what it would cover. He's going to see if they can buy some security cameras, and if they can, he's willing to loan them to us and/or the Board of Health to try to catch some of these perpetrators.
I've
Go
got
ahead,
something
Steve.
very interesting on that one. I may have a sudden influx of free cameras for my work.
Okay.
We're changing out a whole bunch. It's funny you mentioned that. I had a conversation with my manager yesterday about it. We're changing out all of the cameras at one of our large, I work for State Street, it's a very large
Yes.
building up in Boston. We're changing out all of our Panasonic cameras and they're going in the dumpster. I asked if we could just
Save them from, do some dumpster diving?
Yeah, they're going in the trash otherwise. We have to upgrade them for some technical reason that they're not compatible with the DVRs we use. But they are fully functional, they're in use today cameras, they're just coming down for technology reasons.
Okay, well,
I might be able to get more cameras than we know what to do with.
okay, well, that's fine.
I may speculate that the fire department has access to funds for those purposes because much dumping is actually of hazardous substances, hazardous materials, things that are flammable or toxic. And typically, fire departments are looked to as the municipal government piece that would respond to problems like that. So if Board of Health and Conservation can also benefit by fire department fulfilling their responsibilities, why not? That sounds great.
The other thing is, I mentioned to TJ earlier, I don't have the signs yet for the Bunny Hill Trail. I can check with them tomorrow. He's usually pretty good though, about when they're ready, just give me a call. But I'll check with them and see where they're at. And we need about $700 to install them. That would include crushed stone, to plant them and also to fix that washout over by Pierce. So we need to have a motion to come up and spend into this department.
I would entertain a motion to have, to approve this level of spending for these purposes as just described here for the Bunny Hill Trail. We're drawing on either the remaining CPC funds, which were matching funds for our trail grant, or conservation funds, whichever is more suitable, more appropriate.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstaining?
And the next thing was,
Which one do you guys want to use?
what?
I think I prefer using the trail grant, the CPC funds. That's the first choice.
Okay.
If we do the math and find that we've drained that pretty dry,
Okay.
we'll use the
I'll just
conservation
create
funds.
And then, I don't know how many people are updated on that meeting we had with Tony? the bridge.
Get us,
Or was that just me and Frank? You were there, right?
which time, which place?
Tony, we got a, well, I can just review it. That, the planning, planner
Oh, the town plan, yeah.
got a proposal sent from Verdante Engineering. They're doing some other engineering work up there on Main Street. And they had a proposal for a $44,000 study to determine where to put this boardwalk that's earmarked, state earmarked funds, where to put it. So they want to do a study for $44,000 to figure out where to put a boardwalk from land we don't own to land we don't own, and that trails don't exist. So with Tony and told him we already had a place to put a boardwalk bridge, and we didn't need an engineering study to do it. And he seemed to entertain that.
He grasped the sense in that approach.
Yeah, that maybe better use the money to do it.
Use the earmark funds for actually doing the work as opposed to a study.
Yeah.
Because I think we explained to him, we've been studying this location for 20 years.
Yeah.
We are very, very familiar with what's needed.
So are we thinking of
Well, I'm
building
gonna
it in the
finish the
same
story.
place?
No,
or
no, no,
we
no,
don't
no.
know? Okay, good.
Well, I'm
That would
going
make-
to continue. So we had that meeting, and then we left it with Tony that we don't need an engineering study or even an engineer. We built plenty of bridges, and we can spec span tables, and that we would build it with permission at the Hubble property along Union Causeway Trail. So pending that permission. So he also threw in that, well, it seems as if they want to spend more than just to build the bridge there, they'd like to spend a little more money.
The boardwalk,
plan.
the boardwalk they're talking about is simply to create and improve access.
Right.
And I think that's now being interpreted broader than just boardwalk, but yes, I'm sorry to interrupt.
So I told him we could build that for $5,000 or less, or 5,000 or so. And he said, well, what about the parking lot? And so we weren't opposed to that. So I talked to Dan Dell today. I'm gonna meet him Friday down there. He's gonna give me a number on the parking lot, and I'll have him come down and take a look at the crossing. I think it makes sense. There's a way to do it without putting blocks in there, piers in there. But I think if I can get him to put some granite in there, like sort of like the crossing we did down Rocky Run, just one on each side, we can do it with a 20-foot span. And I located a source of pressure-treated 2x12, number one grade, that will span 20 feet. So that means we don't need an engineering study because the span tables in, because we can use it.
So the engineer would read the table, or we can also read the table.
Right, and so, so Tony tasked me with coming up with that plan, so I plan to do that after I meet with Dan on Friday. I'm gonna ask him if he can put a couple of big granite blocks on each side of it, so, because it's more than 20 feet altogether. So we can put a 20-foot span across the ponded area, and then it's
Would the
mucky.
granite blocks be a step up, or would it just be?
Well-
I haven't finished yet.
Okay.
Let me finish. Granite block, 20 feet over, or roughly 20 feet, another granite block. So then we can span that with a bridge. And then two 12-foot ramps going from where it's all muddy and occasionally flooded, from dry land up to that. So the total would be roughly 34, 36 feet. I think that's going to be a better looking and ultimately a more accessible approach than the other plan I had, which was a little more devious. So anyway, that's where it stands, and once I get some information from Dan, I'll draw it up and submit it to Tony from planning.
If I may offer regarding the parking lot, this would be an area on the public side, so to speak, of the gate that the fire department was thinking of fixing. That was just materials for that were given to us by the state. In fact, the state installed the Department of Fish and Game. There's some extra gates laying around, and they're interested in the neighborhood too. So they said, "You guys are working on it. Here you go. There's a gate." And what I know I'm picturing, and correct me if other people feel differently, is what we have at Pierce Avenue, something maybe half that size.
Well,
There
there
isn't a huge amount of space. This won't be a giant. It'll hold maybe 4 or 5, half a dozen vehicles at the most, depending how you park, so that you can be out of the way of the driveway that goes to, even though we own it, the driveway that goes to that house, the private home back down there, and allow people to be more organized and less subject to scratching the fenders and things when they park there.
I went down and measured it actually, and we can make roughly a 30 or 34 by 60 foot parking lot without getting involved in any tree removal. There's a couple of dead trees, but no big trees.
Hazardous trees, absolutely, we should feel free to remove one.
Yeah, there's a couple of dead ones. They're already broken.
And advice, and tell you why. If you're looking at where exactly this rectangle should be laid out, I would favor the direction towards the railroad tracks, as opposed to having it be a lot further south. Because the further away from the tracks, the further south you go in that area, the more you get close to the certified vernal pool.
Well, yeah, I mean, I was figuring for going about, it's fairly close to tracks.
It is, except it's just bushy.
Yeah, bushes. I was gonna take those bushes out, go there, and then go maybe 6 or 8 feet. You know, there's that little berm like thing there.
Yes, there is.
Kind of level that out, and
Yeah.
that would be the scope of it. So I'll talk to Dan and get a price on it and give that to Tony, and they'll have to approve it, and we'll have to get approval from the landowner, but,
Well, we are the landowner.
no, not for the crossing.
Oh, yeah. And now to the crossing, the I would say amended location, or the specific location for boardwalk. that's an area where a small footbridge had to be built in the past to cross a wet area when the Bay Circuit Alliance had a one-day permission back in the year 2000 to have a hike go through there. And we got a one-day permission from, at that time, it was light control. Now it's Hubble that owns the land. We will seek, whether it be an easement, if they continue to own it, or, as we've discussed in this commission before, we have a proposal, at least informally on the table, to purchase that whole area, and we shall see. But this would not encroach on the home that is there. That's not part of the project. It would not encroach on land owned by Joe Mangiello, who owns the property up in Main Street, the old Creamery Company. And it would not encroach on land that's already owned by the Department of Fishing. This would be entirely on the Hubble property.
Where exactly is the parking lot gonna be?
Crooked Place.
Quicker place, go over the railroad tracks, it's immediately over the tracks on the left.
It's where people park now,
Yeah,
but right
there's already a
now,
parking lot.
you could squeeze in a couple cars, maybe 3 there right now, but then the bushes and trees are in the way.
And I'm gonna have, one of the reasons I mentioned the gate to the deputy chief is because I'd like to be able to open the gate so we can get blocks in there to build the bridge.
Right. The gate and the padlock have not been operated for a number of years. It's kind of.
I think what's happened is, it's just a rod that comes down,
Mhm.
and and there's a cylinder, a steel cylinder that's in. It's a small padlock with a short hasp, and it's like jammed in there, and you can't, I think it's rusted in, you can't.
It's the intention for that design was to make it hard to vandalize the padlock,
Right.
but besides making a place that rusts quickly, I can tell you from experience, they also made an ideal place for hornet nests.
Oh, yeah.
So if anyone's ever reaching up into these things to get a padlock, be aware.
So that's the story with that. Now, the only other two minor things I had is, do I need to meet the fragmented guys tomorrow, and if so, what time?
Yeah, I have commitments
I can do it, but I just don't know
from
what
like
time.
8 o'clock right up through 11 o'clock in the morning.
But do you know when they're gonna be there?
I don't know, Frank, what time. Is it today or Friday?
It's tomorrow, Thursday.
Tomorrow?
Right.
I'll
Yeah.
give a call when I get in at 8, all right?
I think, my guess is that they would be on the early side,
Right.
but I never heard a specific time.
Well, I'll tell you what,
I'll try the email.
I'll go down there at 8, and would you call at 8 also? And if they're not there, I'll call you. Well, I'll call you either way. If they're there, I'll let you know.
You guys just touch base with each
Yeah.
other.
So I'll go at 8, I'll go down at 8 anyway, and the
Yeah,
chance
I'll
of
call them.
If they're not, no big deal. You can call them, I'll
Okay.
get back down later.
Okay,
The
I'll
other
let you
question I
know.
had was, Monday, would you like me to go to that meeting too, for a sleeper?
I know there's a meeting Monday.
You forwarded me that email from, forget her name. You said you'd meet her at 8:30.
Oh, that is,
Wildland.
there's 2 parcels we have, among others, where the conservation restriction is quote-unquote held by the Wildlands Trust.
Right.
And annually, they have to inspect each of those properties. They were going to meet here at 8:30, at least I proposed 8:30, I don't know if she
8:30.
confirmed.
She did.
Okay, meet here at town at 8:30 Monday morning, and we'll go, I think, first to the Palmetto area,
Right.
which has a couple of different access points.
Right.
And they need guides, because unless they've been there before, they don't know where they're going.
Right. Well, I can meet.
And I am available for that.
Yeah.
But feel free to join me, because
Okay, yeah.
if I'm the only one who knows, and then, let's say I quit and move to Tahiti,
Yeah, that ain't happening. But, okay. So, then if I have to meet them around 8, 10 up at Bonnie Hill, be fine, and it's okay to mow if you want to mow.
yeah, let the mowing gauge
I don't think it'll
begin.
take long to pull those tires out. So, you just do it in half an hour. And then I'll deal with Plymouth County when they call me if I have to go back up, I'll just go back up there. So, does that work for you?
Yeah, I have to meet, I might have to meet an inspector at some point in the morning, but it'll probably be like a 10-minute deal.
Yeah, okay, it's all good.
So,
So, I'll get up here at 10 and I'll be there, so, anytime after that. Okay, so really, it's kind of a lot, but that's it.
Well, it's an excellent one. And Laura, what did you think of your beginnings of introduction to our cool properties?
Well, I'm just so impressed with how much we have available to the town. I wonder, how are we communicating that?
More and more all the time.
Great.
It's what really started publicizing it was the pandemic.
Yeah.
People were showing up at properties, and the ones that didn't have trails yet, they're going like, oh, we were hoping there'd be a trail.
Yeah.
Well, now there is. And they're becoming well known. Word of mouth is spreading a lot of information too. And now that we have a much more formal social media sort of reporting of what's going on through the town website, we can put all we want in that area too. We've already been doing that, right, Dave?
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. And I can't wait, thank you so much. Spent an hour showing me the whole town and all the different places, and next will be, we'll go each one and walk them.
Take a walk.
which I'm
You know,
looking
if you
forward to.
walked every trail and every property that the town and the state have here, you'd be walking quite a while. You'd be very
We
tired.
don't have to do it all in one day.
Yeah, but I mean, I love walking.
Yeah, just let me know when you have availability, just any given time.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. Great. Thank you, Mr. Mansfield and company. That's great. One other thing we mentioned, we'll visit the sleeper property afterwards because that's easy. But in relation to that, and in relation to the CR too, we purchased, and we spec'd out and purchased, because we were required to as part of our land grant for helping with the sleeper property, $200,000 grant, to get a sign against credit. That sign has been living for quite some time up in the conservation office, leaning up against the cabinets.
Looks good in the bubble wrap.
Well, but it's not accomplishing its purpose. The perfect thing would be to already have sidewalks and access and stuff from the Pond Street, but those sidewalks aren't there yet, and also there's some negotiations with the neighbors who don't quite understand where the property lines are and this and that. But we do have existing access, which a lot of people use, from the southern end, along the base of the trail at Smitty's Bog, that perimeter. And your chair humbly proposes that we install that sign at the southern end of the trail network on the sleeper property. That way people doing Smitty's Bog, people doing the base of the trail, will see the sign and appreciate it the way it's meant to be. So what
Did you want to just mount it on a couple of poles, or do you want to build a kiosk?
I think poles would be fine, but we can talk about that. The goal, though, would be to get it mounted. When you and I were with the Wildlands Trust, was it only a little over a year ago, or was it 2 years ago, when it was very, very hot?
Right.
We had the property surveyed, and we found all the bounds, and we showed them, and that's what we'll be looking at again with the Wildlands Trust on Monday. A few feet on our side of the property, not on Smitty's Bog property, pick an appropriate place.
We would do that Monday.
Yeah, I think that would be great, and if it involved Wildlands with the discussion, we would know exactly what we're up to.
It'd be pretty quick if we just put it in a couple of poles.
Yes. Now, the catch is with a sign mounted like there, instead of, let's say, out on the public way, is subject for vandalism.
Right.
We've seen it before, we've dealt with it before, but I don't think we can use that as a reason to not do it.
Right.
We could put a camera in the area.
Well, seems to me we could, or something like
Well,
that.
I still have one more of those ones we bought. I can put that there.
Why not? So, that, I think, because it might be viewed as an unusual place, it's not where you would drive into a place and see something, but rather a place you'd be walking in. I want to make sure that we're all of the same mind on this. And so I'd entertain a motion to install this, the sleeper property sign at the southern property edge, not the north property edge.
So more.
Do I hear a second? Further discussion or questions? If not, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstaining. Sign's going up. It's no longer going to be in Lon's way.
Sure.
I'm gonna miss it.
There's a saying about something being in harm's way. There's another about being in Lon's way. We don't like that.
Putting up a couple posts is easier than putting up a whole kiosk.
Yeah.
Right, yeah. Dragging it out of the woods.
Yeah, moving it around like it was convenient. We have some invoices, a couple other things. Does anyone have a question about the MAC conference a week from this coming Saturday?
Oh, I do. Do we want a carpool up there? Or
I think it'd be a great idea. It's not exactly next door. Devon's is.
About an hour and 20 minutes.
I'm happy to drive, or we
I
could
can
put
go.
points, but if we
Who's
meet
going?
here, we'd have to set.
I'm a baby, I'll know after this forever.
I'm going.
I'll go. We should,
Frank's not going, is he?
no, he's
Yeah.
in
I
Denmark,
won't
I
be
think.
back.
And I don't think it's Denmark, Maine. I think it's Denmark, if I understood him correctly.
Oh,
Denmark, yeah.
I do have one more,
Oh,
sorry.
please, we can return.
One more, it just came up last night. Somebody drove off the road down at Kiwanee again and caved in the retaining wall around the outlet.
Oh, yeah, Gil was telling us.
I got the email from him.
Gil wanted me to just make sure you know. Down, Kiwanee's just by the gatehouse.
Yes,
Somebody drove off that again.
yeah. I was,
Roger's already got it in process.
yeah, that's the sort of thing where, I actually was walking through there a couple weeks ago. I think it was the morning after that, and Roger was there doing some things, and he showed me that, so I know.
Okay, so you already know, okay.
But it's sort of an opportunity to talk once again about communication, because that's Indian Head Brook, and it's not just the wetland, it's the brook itself.
Right.
I don't know if anyone out in the big wide world would expect the Camp Quantico people to go through a paperwork process to show us what they're going to do, like, because it's an impact on the wetlands, or the accident was an impact on the wetlands. But we just do want to track these things, and thank you for doing that tracking. Frank may have ideas about it when he comes back, even though it'll be retroactive for this thing. The Camp Quantico Commission or committee, everything except the top of the ground by the camp itself is in our jurisdiction. So all their planning, except whether it's the beach or the repairing accident sites, we just need to have an understanding with them.
So that was just an FYI.
Yeah. Great. One other FYI thing, and this is not on the agenda, but it just happened today. Sort of unusual event was noticed out by the boat ramp here on Wapatuck Pond. Someone with a hydro seeding company had a long hose going out and a pump in the water. They were pumping water out of the pond to fill their tank to go do a hydro seeding project not too far away from here. And I thought, gee, that's odd. Is that okay? Because this is not super duper clean water out here, but the health agent and I were both in the building, and so the person who reported it actually was a retired cop, so he kind of notices unusual things. So we went and talked to the guy, and he said he had permission, and we said, who is this? Well, my boss. Well, he's the guy who owns the hydro seeding company. And it turns out they've done things maybe a little bit like this in Duxbury and Plymouth, but this is all verbal. And our health agent was a little concerned that if we say, oh, that's fine, then maybe all the hydro seeding companies will come to the boat ramp and fill up their tanks for free, instead of buying water from Indian Head or some other arrangement. So we're just looking into that, and we told the guy we'd be talking to his boss. We just want to know how the hydro seeding industry has been obtaining the water resources they need, because it just didn't feel right. But that's not what the boat ramp is for. I mean, it's for people with boats, not people who need free water for their money-making projects.
And I don't think we want to get in the habit of leaving it to their discretion.
No, it's,
The pond's high right now, but what happens if they come in
that's right.
August?
It
or
may
try
be
to
that
get-
when the pond is low and there's water restrictions, they'll flock here more than ever to get free water.
Right.
I don't think we should be accepting that. So
Right.
let it be known that we have business cards and phone numbers and a call into Department of Public Health and other feelers who ought to say, what will be our stance on that? But it just didn't seem right. So we intervened. Okay. The invoices that we have to address are probably right at hand.
That was 3 of them.
There's, is this a 3?
Just as a heads up for everybody, I am going to the planning board meeting Monday night to start with the master plan steering subcommittee.
Yep.
Is the official name.
That's what it's called, I believe.
So if anybody's got anything hot from the master plan, feel free to bring it up before then.
Very similar to that, tomorrow,
Is that mine? Did I sign on my own again?
Probably.
feel free to cross it out.
This one's trail markers.
Yeah. Oh, that's not mine. This one is though.
Oh, so leave that one alone. What TJ just mentioned, tomorrow morning at 10, Laurie Muncy and Rhiannon and her assistant will be here. They're gonna talk to me about the open space portion of the master plan. And Mike, I don't know exactly what they expect to learn from me, but I think that the master plan from 15 years ago, which I helped to write, has a lot to say about open space. I just don't remember what it says. But I hope that in a manner that's both concise but also comprehensive, they'll give open space the attention it needs. And perhaps, TJ, maybe that's the sort of thing you will be writing Hurried on in the months to come.
Hopefully.
You want me to put up a vote for you?
Yeah, please, at your convenience.
They're in the bush.
And then maybe tomorrow morning, I look at it briefly before they come in.
That's for
It's more than
a
one copy, so you can-
banner to put on when we have
Okay.
like Hanson Day, where we have something to put on the table.
Yeah, I do.
Says,
Thanks. Hopefully I do this tonight.
Do we need
Spend
to
my
have
afternoon.
something on the agenda to vote on doing something like this going forward?
That's a good question. I think what I'd like to do is let this settle in and pick Frank's brain and again, maybe even see if we can find, sort of search the landscape of other commissions and things. See, do other people do this also?
Maybe bring it up at the, on the 28th at the MACC. We can't be the first commission to ever have the question. I don't think.
Who knows, there might be an opportunity to ask that kind of thing, but the workshops that we go to, I'm not thinking so much the fundamentals training courses, because that's a different thing, but the workshops you go to typically have an agenda pretty well set or format. But there's always chances to ask people questions around the edges after the presentations and things. And if you have someone making a presentation on how you manage mitigation, it's a great thing to buttonhole after the talk, or even when they open the floor up for questions. Just see what opportunities present themselves, because we want to, I think, pick brains of everyone if we can. But I think, Ed, your suggestion is good to have this, see if it can be part of our standard procedures. We don't want to encourage people to mangle resources because they can buy mitigation somewhere else. They should still leave the resources alone unless there's no reasonable way to do that.
Well, they wouldn't be able to find it. It's up to us if we allow them.
It could be mistaken for that though.
Oh.
It's like, oh, you're just paying us off so you can wreck that swamp, you know?
Yeah, we can say.
But that's not what we're
only
doing.
If that's the last resort.
Right,
So it has to be
exactly.
documented well.
The
not
last
just-
resort.
Yeah.
That's a good idea.
So,
Is this a proposal or a bill?
That's a bill, isn't it, for the tablecloth?
Oh, no, that was the proposal for the
That's a
runner.
proposal.
If we
Oh,
wanted
wow.
to do the runner.
purchase a runner to have it available for use when we do
Promotional.
tables,
Yeah,
like at Hanson Day or other events.
Yeah.
So, I guess we don't know if the money, if we've replaced an order yet, or whether we're
no, I
about
just
to.
got a quote because I remember doing the one at Kilcooley, and that's the exact
Oh,
same.
okay, so that's
They
just-
gave us the same price as what they have. They have this big red one with their logo, and they put it on for their meetings or when they do like promos. That's for, it's pretty big, I think it's like 6 feet or something.
So
We
you
don't
hang it
use
across
one.
the front of the
6
table.
feet,
Yeah, yeah, if we have an event or something, we can just put it down.
Looks a little more professional.
It's, there's more and more opportunities to be part of a publicity day of different sorts, and might as well have a flag so we can wave it.
Yeah, so I figured I should put it out in case when we talk about it, we want to order it, we have it.
Okay?
I can
Anything else?
save it if you want, yeah. That's it.
Do we want to
You
make a
wanna
motion
do
to
it?
buy that, or do we talk about it?
Up to you guys.
I think it makes sense to have.
When I looked at this earlier, I thought, very, very, very good idea, I shouldn't have far along and gotten. So the chair would entertain a motion to take all steps necessary to purchase a 6-foot economy table throw, full color front only, as described in this quote.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstaining? 500, unanimously approved.
Okay, so we're.
Very efficient.
And then the time
Oh,
being.
not yet, we still got one more thing. What are we gonna do, we're driving up to
Oh.
MACC?
Someone should take it on themselves to do a little Google thing and calculate the drive time from here to Devon's.
I already did that, it's about an hour and 20 minutes.
Okay, so
It's
allow,
about an hour and 15.
Right.
an hour and a half, I think.
Yeah.
Because
Well-
it's always good to get there early so that,
That's the other question, the program started at 9, but it opens at 8.
well, there's registration for like an hour beforehand, and that's a great opportunity to go look at exhibits and schmooze with people, and that's grab donut, whatever they have. I went to one meeting there, which is actually a trails meeting. It's a great facility. It's like a newly invented town. It used to be an army base. But if it takes what you
Well,
just said, to that
I
amount
think it
of
was
time.
an hour and 12 minutes or something, I was
Okay.
just figuring it out.
Well, when you figure you're gonna be going on Route 120 and Route 2,
Yeah, but
you
it's-
never know.
It's 6 o'clock
It's
Saturday morning.
Saturday morning, right?
Still, you just never know.
But all it
8 to
takes is
4.
an accident, or one accident.
Yeah,
So what do we wanna leave, like at 4?
no. 4 p.m. the night before.
We'll get a room, yeah.
Yeah, are they gonna pay for a hotel
8
for
to
the night
4.
before?
If we left here, pick a time, 6:30, 6:45, we'd be good.
Yeah, we can always stop for breakfast or something if we get there.
Well, when you get there, there will be donuts and things, These things are
Really
great.
into
Who's
donuts.
driving?
Yeah, they have everything.
I'm a probably more than a maybe.
So, all right, so what do you wanna say?
I'm not going, so
I don't know, 6:40, meet it, meet the parking lot here?
Whatever time you
Yes,
guys
the
decide.
bus, your bus
I can
will leave
help
at
you.
6:45, whether we're here or not.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I think that's a good plan, 6:40,
6:40 in the parking lot?
Meet here.
6:40 here?
yeah.
Okay.
it's next Saturday, not this weekend.
Yeah, a week
I'll,
here.
I'll be texting you, I'll be texting you and saying, where are you guys?
Yeah, you left early.
I was
Good
here
plan.
early.
Thank you for that little detail.
Okay.
Anything else? I doubt there is.
Okay, TJ. I'm done.
We made a motion to adjourn.
8:15 PM, I move that we adjourn.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
No opposed, allowed. We stand adjourned.